Tim O'Connell last updated 1715, December 8, 2017. Port Nelson's Coolwell slipway remediation got underway this week, with 30,000 cubic meters of contaminated sediment being dredged as part of the $8 million project. The cleanup of Port Nelson Slipway, one of the most contaminated sites in the country, is moving ahead one bucket at a time. The $8.9 million remediation project of the Coolwell Slipway at Port Nelson officially got underway this week. The marine sediments around the slipway were contaminated by pollutants such as tributyl tin and copper from ship repair work dating back to 1970. Workers from Heron Construction began digging at Port Nelson's Coolwell Slipway remediation this week, with 30,000 cubic meters of contaminated sediment set to be dredged by April next year. The remediation project uses excavators and dredging equipment to dig up the contaminated sediment. It is processed to form mudcrete, ensuring any pollutants are contained before being returned to form a new reclamation at the port. The project is being managed by Port Nelson, with Auckland-based civil engineering contractors Heron Construction tasked with digging up the area. The slipway is number 2 on the Ministry for the Environment's Contaminated Sites Remediation Fund priority list, and its cleanup has been on the cards since 2010. The $8.9 million Coolwell Slipway remediation will see previously contaminated material removed before being processed as mudcrete from a reclamation of land east of Kingsford Quay. Port Nelson Chief Executive Martin Byrne said the start of the project was a big step forward after 7 years of preparation. It's good we're finally able to do something. Some of the environmental practices that went on in our industry and a lot of others 3,040 years ago would be unacceptable now, he said. Byrne said the construction of the reclamation was a win-win for the port in cleaning the slipway as well as creating extra land to reconfigure logging areas. The proposed dredge and reclamation zones, taken from Port Nelson's Coolwell Slipway remediation project website. The total project cost was being split between Port Nelson and Central Government, with a $4.2 million government contribution given to the remediation in 2016. Dredge and reclamation construction program is due to be completed by April, project manager Kelly Leonard of Port Nelson said. The last few weeks had focused on commissioning the mixing plant and completing the pilot trial of mudcrete production. Leonard said dredging was the Heron's bread and butter and it had previously carried out similar work with ports of Auckland. There was a lot of preparation to get people on site and actually start, and now it's nice to be involved in one of the biggest remediation projects in the country. Dredging is carried out with a long-reach excavator within a contained area. A silt curtain prevents contaminated sediment from spreading. The excavated material is placed on a barge and taken to a pug mill mixing plant nearby, mixed with concrete and bind with activated carbon, before the new mudcrete product is returned to the site and placed on the seabed. It will then be used to construct a new 5,000 square meters reclamation east of Kingsford Quay adjacent to the slipway. The main dredge area covered the water immediately north and to the east of the slipway, so far 3,000 cubic meters of the estimated 30,000 cubic meters has been shifted. Excavators would dig between 3 and 8 meters deep to allow for the contaminated area as well as an area of liquefiable material that also needed to be dredged. It's material that is natural, but in an earthquake it's been identified as a high risk for liquefaction, and if we're building that concrete reclamation over top, then that needs to come out too, Leonard said. A computer screen inside the excavator enabled the operator to see how far they were digging. As the bucket dropped into the water, it can be tracked where it's going through GPS equipment. The screen turns blue when it hits material, green when it reached the dredge zone, and red once it goes beneath the dredge zone. Validation testing between the pug mill and replacement stage would be carried out to ensure that the mudcrete was in an appropriate state to be used. A website has been set up to keep the public informed on remediation work, including time-lapse footage of the progress, stuff.